Wherever you are, wherever you are, wherever you are, take a moment and breathe. And let's look at that request. Breathe. Um, to become a more conscious in the breath, notice how sometimes you want to breathe shallowly from sort of the breastbone up, and see if you can bring that breath down below your pelvic bone, allowing that breath to fill the cavity around the pelvis and out the back of the spine and to the sides of those great love handles, all the way up then to the chest cavity and into the shoulders. But artfully see if you can do all of that in those 6 directions. So down, back, forward, sides, and up. Because often we don't allow ourselves to breathe down at the base, and so that's where all of the feeling is. That's where all of the rooted emotion is. And if we can allow ourselves to breathe or practice breathing down there, not just up here, but down there, then we tap into emotion and feeling that has yet to be given attention, yet to be served justly. And it's important that we allow ourselves to breathe into all of that. Anything stagnant, anything that has unconsciously become inert, we bring life to it. We bring movement to it through breath. It's our greatest commodity, breath. Our greatest commodity. So let's use it wisely. Let's spend it wisely. Let's collaborate with it wisely and just allow ourselves to breathe our bodies. Breathe our bodies. So much kindness in breathing our bodies. And as you join me this morning, not only am I grateful for your presence here, but I am knowing for you, for me, for all of us, the continuing unlayering of anything that inhibits us from realizing the divine presence that we are. That every single time we show up, every single time we click a button to watch, every single time we stop and we pause and we breathe, every single time we open a sacred text, every single time we close our eyes and we allow ourselves to contemplate on something far greater than the immediacy of the effect in front of us. Every single time we engage in conscious communication, every single time we willingly let an old paradigm die so that a new one can begin, each and every one of those times is significant. One is not greater than the other because each of them hold within it the vibration of a personal intent that says, I, you, we are ready to be home. We are ready to bring to the forefront the magnificence, the potentiality, the purpose of why we are here to walk in these incarnations on this planet at this time. Oh, yes, all of that is in the click of a button. All of that is in a dutiful, conscious conversation. All of that. And so let's celebrate. I celebrate you for being here. I celebrate the gifts that are about to unfold as we explore yet another opportunity to come home to truth. And we also just invite in love. The love that permeates all of life, the love that is in us, whether we recognize or nurture it or not. The consistency of life in us, whether we acknowledge it or not. The intelligence and the wisdom, the knowing that is in us, whether we abide by it, whether we acknowledge it or not. All of those things are here. And so how beautiful it is to stop and to pause. And so what I invoke today in our time together is that deeper rooted knowing that something so specifically designed, something tailor-made for what it is that you long for reaches you in mind and in heart, and enlivens your soul. And so we are grateful. We are grateful for freedom. We are grateful for technology. We are grateful that solution indeed always, always exists. So may we uncover that today. Blessed be. And so it is. Good morning. Hello, my friends. Really wonderful to see you. Thank you for logging on. Thank you for all of the faithfuls who join me live. And for those of you who find this at another time, I appreciate you being here. When I look at fundamentals, and by fundamentals I'm talking about the things that support you and I in remembering, waking up to who and what we are. One of those things that I consider to be a fundamental, and one of those things that I often have taught on and continue to examine myself, is this idea of futurizing. Have you found yourself doing that? I find myself doing that all the time. And futurizing looks something like this. Well, when I am able to get this thing completed, I will be able to do this. When I can get all of the children out and into the world, and then I will be able to feel this. In other words, there's this postponement of something that we're wanting to be held into the future because there are conditions that prohibit us from having it right now. And I want to challenge that. I challenge that within myself, but I also want to challenge this futurizing within you too. Because it is that thing that says, I'm trying to get to something, right? In fact, I was reviewing a lot of my consulting, coaching, counseling practice text. And there were many times in there where I discovered that I was saying that if you're here and you want to get to here, I'm here to support you in that journey from here to here. And I want to repurpose that because I see that that's also an example of futurizing. Because there is no getting from here to here when you and I understand that the here is here. It's already here. As the old joke says, there is no there. And so what we find ourselves doing a lot of times is we continue to look at conditions outside of ourselves that are telling us that somehow what we desire or what we want is required for us to get something, the acquisition of things when that thing is already here. Do you follow me? So it all boils down to this one central idea, and that is that you and I create nothing. I remember the first time I heard that from a metaphysical teaching perspective, that you and I create nothing. I was kind of taken back by that because I think we hold a sense of pride in what we look in terms of our creations, our accomplishments in the past. And I'm not wanting to take that away. What I'm wanting to bring to the forefront is that those things that we supposedly created, all of the possibilities of that have always been. You and I create nothing, meaning that everything is already created. It is that thing that exists in the all, in the quantum all. The most profound and enjoyable teachers of that idea has always been, for me, Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard was a masterful author and teacher who centralized his focus on the power of the imagination. And when you stop and think about, well, what is the imagination? It is mental activity that allows you and I boundless, infinite territory in which to create through thought. And so when you pick up a great novel, have you discovered that you are within the territory, the adventure, no matter what genre that novel is, through the power of your imagination. It has allowed you to purposefully put yourself into that arena of activity. The same is true for watching a movie. The same is true when we quote quote daydream. A lot of times what that imaginative field of energy is doing is it's taking us somewhere. Well, where is that somewhere? That somewhere is here. And when you combine the awareness that imagination is a potent power, when you combine that with an intentional, mindful, purposeful use of it, then you can see that the solutions to a problem, the answers to the multitude of questions that we have already exist. They're not something to be developed. They're not something to be birthed. Those things are here. If you want to simplify this and apply it personally, it's like that job that you want. You don't even know what that job is, but you kind of have an idea about the environment, the type of people, the way in which you're treated, the, the celebration of your gift in terms of monetary compensation and respect. It isn't that that thing hasn't happened yet, that that place doesn't exist. It is already there. Our job then is to continue to remove all of the barriers that tell us that that thing doesn't exist. Do you follow me? And so the right and perfect person for you to share intimacy with, that person is already walking the planet. And so it's a matter of preparation, not in terms of developing that thing, but of removing all of the ideas, examining all of the themes that tell us we don't deserve, all of the things that are veils, barriers, belief systems. Again, I like to use the word themes that we hold subjectively inside us that tell us that something is distanced or away from us. So the idea of to get to, I want to invite you today to look at that and to practice dissolving that. So I told you about Neville Goddard, and I went back into my library to look at a lot of the Neville Goddard books that I have. Several years ago, they did this amazing anthology called The Power of Imagination, which has a multitude of his books into an anthology. And so he says things like this all the time in very beautiful, poetic, artful ways. And one of the ones that I want to share with you today says, "The world of creation is finished, and its original is within us." Just that one sentence. Let me repeat that again. The world of creation is finished, and its original is within us. Again, what does that mean for you personally? The thing that you're longing for, the aspiration to get to, that thing already exists within you. In other words, the person that you long to be, you already are. It's kind of like the example of Michelangelo and the statue of David. There is a legend that says when he looked at the blank piece of marble, he could already see that work of art completed. So all that he did was begin to remove all of the things that were prohibiting that piece of artwork. Do you follow me? And so what this idea of your solution, my solution already existing means is that then our behavior and the way in which we engage in the world must reflect that. And how does that happen? Well, it means that we must enter into the path of accepting in gratitude that thing, the existence of that solution, the answer to that problem. We must engage in the external world with the assurance of that thing. regardless of whether we can see it in front of us or not, regardless of how many times there appears to be layers of marble between us and that statue. Do you follow? And so that's a practice. That is a practice because too often we are swayed by the one closed door. Too often we are swayed by some appearance of a faulty no, rather than going, getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. And so, it reminded me of some of the phraseology of what we have heard before. So, how many of you are familiar with the idea of, or you've heard this before? Don't just stand there, do something. Don't just stand there, do something. And why do we have that reaction? Why do we have that sort of commandment, right? Don't just stand there, do something. Well, a lot of times because we are either saying it to ourselves or being told that because we are hesitating out of fear. We are procrastinating out of the possibility that we're going to get it wrong about what other people are going to think. And so we don't act and we don't move on that thing. And then we're always saying we want to do something, but then we don't do it. And the motivation behind, again, the inertia or the inactivity is this fear. So people will say, don't just stand there, do something. And there's truth to that, because by taking that first step, we kind of confront the fear of the thing going wrong. We allow ourselves to move forward in spite of this theme that says we're not worthy of the success of that, or who knows, right? So don't just stand there, do something. And now there's the other part to it. Don't just do something, stand there. Don't just do something, stand there. This also is a powerful truth, because what it's saying is that instead of just rushing into things without pausing and becoming really conscious and remembering that the solution already exists, to stop, to pause, to ground ourselves, to recognize that, so that when I do pick up that phone call to make something that feels a little scary, perhaps I have to ask for something and I'm not really good at asking for something, or I have to resolve a financial issue, or I have to have a difficult conversation with a family member. A lot of times, before just doing those activities, pause. Reflect on the idea that the solution that you really long for already exists. So how do I prepare myself? Well, it isn't that I dictate what I want the other person to say. It's that I pause long enough before I pick up the phone, before I walk into the door. I pause long enough to reflect on what it feels like for that solution to be fully embodied. To feel like what freedom feels like. And if I really had to boil this down, it's that. Can you practice what freedom feels like? Every single time in every single activity, because that pretty much is the wide swath that covers what we're going for. Yes, we want to experience financial security. Yes, we want to feel safe enough to be able to trust to love another person. Yes, we want others to honor our creativity, and we want to be paid for it. We want to be acknowledged. We want there to be an even exchange of energy. If I'm giving something and the person's receiving it, I want them to somehow give back. But in other words, we're wanting all of these things, but if we kind of bare bones it, what we're really wanting is freedom. The freedom to be, do, create, love, in spite of what the earthly world might dictate outside of us. I want to be free enough to let go of the chains of bondage from my family heritage. I want to be free to let go of the of the diagnosis. I want to be free to let go of my history that I have so carved into my mind that tells me that I'm not good at. I want to be free to let go of this thing called age, this number that somehow defines too late, to this, to that. I want to be free of the incrimination of my physical body that tells me that I need to look like something. I want to be free. Well, that freedom already exists. And so when I began to practice with this, when I began to understand, and this is one of the ways to look at it, I've already won. You've already won. This is just a classroom. This thing called the human life. It's just a curriculum and a classroom, a cosmic sandbox, if you will, to see how soon we can get to this centralized idea. To see how soon you and I can wake up and remember that the thing that we covet, the thing that we search for, the thing that we strive for, the prayers that we cry out in vain and in angst and hoping that they will be answered, are already answered. The real work then is not dependent upon anything out there, not dependent upon any action out there. It is all about the way in which we remember what we are. What did Neville say in that sentence? The world of creation is finished and its original is within us. So the world of creation is within us, and that world of creation is what? Boundless, infinite, extraordinary. And to the degree that we can acknowledge it within us is the degree in which we experience it in the way you and I go into the world. So yes, even in the time of a pandemic, so yes, even in a time when those of us who are self-proprietors are going, I don't know where the money's going to come from, even in a time when our feelings are hurt, even in a time when there is this thing called disappointment in a dream because the dream didn't unfold the way that we thought. All of those things cannot inhibit the fact that our solution and our freedom is there. So what would your life be like? What would your life be like if you returned back to this? What would our lives be like if this was the practice? That before we did anything, that we already knew that our solution existed, that there is no there, that everything, creation is already finished. He goes on to say, we saw it before we set forth, and have since been trying to remember it and to activate sections of it. There are infinite views of it. Our task is to get the right view, and by determined direction of our attention, make it pass in procession before the inner eye. If we assemble the right sequence and experience it in imagination until it has the tone of reality, then we consciously create circumstances. When we do all of this inner activity, in other words, when we go back to, what does it feel like to be free? What does it feel like to know that this thing that I've been worrying about is solved? What does that feel like? If we devoted as much time to that as we do about worrying about the thing, then again, there would be a radical shift in the perception of the way in which we are interrelating into the world. And so, don't just do something, stand there. I want to invite that one into your world this week. Don't just do things unconsciously. Stop before you do them. Stop before you do them and feel the feeling of what it would like to be so pleased, to be so sweetly surprised, to feel that rush of relief to feel that sense of freedom inside of you from something that has been weighing your heart down, and that by feeling that feeling, you and I are already magnetizing that possibility to us. And I say possibility even though it already exists. It's because we are removing our own barriers. What are those barriers? Those barriers are themes, the themes inside of us. So one of the themes that seems perpetual is, for me, is not being worthy, not being good enough. And I know, it sounds so cliched at this point, right? But cliches become cliches because of their repetitiveness. And things are repetitive because there must be some semblance of truth to them. So this thing of being unworthy, how many layers of that is there within you and I? So it's like we conquer a layer, or we experience a breakthrough and a freedom, and we accept worthiness to discover, oh, there's another layer there. And rather than feeling defeated of with the idea of why am I here again, it's more of another layer I get to unveil, another opportunity of mastery to accept and to acknowledge my solution, a greater realization that everything that I've longed for is here. And so these themes are the thing that keep us locked into futurizing, because we think we have to do something before the materialization. Do you follow me? And so the theme of not being enough makes us want to search out people who can help us be enough. And there's nothing wrong with camaraderie and teaching. Obviously, that's why you and I are having a dialogue. But I would caution you to think that somebody can fix it for you, or someone can do the work for you. It's a matter of you and I accepting that who we are is whole, complete, and perfect. And the reason that we're here is not to really have to strive towards something, but it's to remove the forgetfulness. That's the beauty of community. That's the beauty of a tribe of people that you consciously create that can support you and always reminding you of your greatness. Important. It's valuable. It's essential. I'll never forget when those words, solution already exists, first popped into my head. It's been 11 years ago this month, and I was walking the Camino de Santiago across the country of Spain. The Camino de Santiago is one of the world's most ancient pilgrimages that dates back to the Middle Ages, and it ends in Santiago de Compostela, which is a beautiful, beautiful city in Spain, and it's where there is the Cathedral of St. James the Apostle. That pilgrimage was said to have been carried out by those who loved St. James and who came to revere him and his tomb there. It is said that it is laid out along the ley lines within the astrological world, and that magical things happen for those people who walk on that. But I will tell you, it was quite a significant journey. But I remember on the first day of the Camino, one of the hardest days, because you cross the Pyrenees from France into Spain. I remember the sort of physical agony and the idea of futurizing in terms of, oh my God, where am I going to sleep? I don't know what I'm doing. The mystery was so overwhelming, coupled with all of the physicality going on. And I remember something stopped me in my tracks halfway up the Pyrenees, and it said, turn around, David. And so I turned around, and what I saw was this magnificent vista of the Pyrenees on a beautiful, sparkly, clear day. And they often joke that the Pyrenees is a fickle mistress because most of the time she is enshrouded in clouds and in mist. But on that day, the day that I happened to be walking across her, you could see what seemed like for eternity. And that nudge to turn around, David, and to look and to encapsulate all that reminded me of the fact that this majesty, this beauty, this infinite nature was all around me. And that if I'm so looking down and in my stuff, and I don't bother to look around and to appreciate, then I miss it. I miss the beauty that's there. And the words, your solution already exists, came into form. And it was wherever you're thinking about or why you need to, or how you're going to sleep tonight, all of that already exists. The cot, the bed, even the outside, wherever you wind up, it's already there. Why not just appreciate the beauty and the majesty? You're walking across the Pyrenees. How many times is that going to happen in your life? And so I did. I stopped. And I knew that whatever was before me would be perfect. And that's kind of the beginnings of my awareness of this idea that the solution is already there, that we're not creating anything, that which is already there. It's fully formed. The ability to fly steel in the air already existed long before the minds of the Wright brothers and so many others who were racing to do that availed themselves of that knowledge to download. And so your solution already exists. It's there to download. You and I must stop long enough from the doing to say yes to that, to open up to that, to breathe that in. So I know it's kind of an old school lesson, but I think it's a lesson that we forget. I think it's a lesson that we sort of sweep aside in the doing, and the frenzy of the external world. And there's a lot of frenzy in the external world right now. And so basics are good. Basic metaphysics are good. And the fact that you contain within you the whole realm of creation, tap into that. Tap into that. Find your way to express that. May God be with you. May infinite intelligence be with you. May light and love be with you. And practice this coming week. Give yourself the ability to rest in that freedom and to celebrate the fact that you and I are never separate from it. Be well. Take care.